Today is all about AWS, and I'm going to kick us off by talking a bit about how you're going to build a cloud strategy team to govern your AWS cloud operations. My name's Amber Gregorio, and I work as a product marketing manager for a company called CloudHealth. So I'm going to start today by sharing a little bit about who CloudHealth is, and then we're going to dive into a framework that we've developed for tackling some of the common cloud challenges, some things that I think will resonate with you all as you're venturing into using the public cloud. Okay, so CloudHealth, it's a software solution that's currently being used by over 10,000 businesses to manage their cloud environments. And we work with some of the largest cloud consumers in the world, and we're managing over $11 billion in cloud spend annually. So operating at quite a large scale across all the leading public and hybrid cloud providers. We're constantly expanding our support. We've recently added Oracle Cloud, and we're always building out. What we had was an early start on our container functionality. So we're supporting a variety of container solutions as well. In CloudHealth, on average, we're able to help our customers achieve about 25% cost savings. And we're able to do this not just by providing you with the critical data and recommendations for optimizing your infrastructure, but also by teaching our customers about this framework that will help you align your cloud strategy across teams and departments. So that's a great place for us to start the day today as we're thinking about how we want to optimize our AWS environments. It's useful to take a step back and think about your strategy before you dive into the tactical approaches to optimization. And though you may not have heard of CloudHealth, you've probably heard of VMware. And VMware was a CloudHealth customer for many years before they ultimately bought us in 2018. And CloudHealth is now being positioned as the leading solution for multi-cloud management and hybrid cloud management across VMware's entire portfolio. AWS was our primary functionality and is still the core of our product, but we are greatly expanding to be able to serve people across a variety of cloud providers. So now I want to just take a step back for a minute and think about why businesses are moving from being on premises to the public cloud. And when you think about that, words like speed, agility, and innovation will come to mind. The bottom line is that when you operate in the cloud, you can deliver software products faster. You'll have access to the tools and services that cloud providers that are offering to make building and deploying these applications much faster and easier. And this is a critical strategic advantage in today's fast-moving cloud world. But then once you start operating in the cloud, many of our customers are facing challenges that they hadn't anticipated. So you're no longer living in this world where IT has control over all the resources that are provisioned for developers. Instead, developers can use a credit card and spin up instances by themselves, and costs will start to rack up across different cloud providers and different teams and different applications. So businesses very quickly start to lose control over their environment, and they often come to us when they're facing escalating cloud bills and they don't know how to get it under control. And these problems are really compounded when you think about big enterprises operating at scales with hundreds of sprint teams and multiple applications and products and departments and lines of businesses. So for these enterprises, cloud operations really becomes a massive challenge. And this is really the meat of what we want to get into is how do you tackle these challenges? The first thing that you want to do is take a strategic approach and establish a team to govern the use of cloud across your entire organization. We do call this team the Cloud Center of Excellence, or the CCOE. You might call this team your cloud strategy team or cloud business office. You can see on the slide here a list of several common names that we see for this group. But the core purpose of the group is the same, and they're going to handle three key areas. The first thing this team does is they execute your cloud strategy. So typically the strategy is going to come from your executive team, and your cloud strategy answers questions like, which workloads should we be migrating to the cloud and which are more appropriate to leave on premises? And how quickly do we need to undergo this migration process? So these strategies are going to be set at the high level by the executive team, but it's up to the CCOE team to figure out how to put those mandates into practice and make it all come to life. The CCOE team also serves as the governing body that's going to continually refine and enforce these practices that you develop over time. So the second key area that the CCOE team focuses on is driving collaboration across key stakeholders. I'll talk in just a minute a bit more about who should be part of this team, but the critical thing is that you have representation from every area of the business that's going to be impacted by this team's decisions. You don't want to establish a bunch of cloud policies and spend time setting up automation and then face tons of pushback from developers who say, but we need access to, this type of compute instance, or we need to be able to leverage new tools and solutions that AWS puts out. So you need to take those considerations into account upfront as you're developing your cloud strategy. And finally, the CCOE team also is the group that's going to evaluate technology solutions and make decisions about which solutions the business is going to use for cloud management. So of course, this includes things like which cloud provider or cloud providers are we going to use? Are we going to be an AWS only shop? Are we going to have a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud strategy? But this also includes the evaluation of third-party tools like CloudHealth that I'm going to talk to you about today that will help you manage your cloud finances, your operations, and your security posture. So who's on this team? Typically, your CCOE is comprised of individuals from your finance team, operations, security, application development, and if you have a cloud architecture team. The makeup of this team, it's not necessarily the same for every company, but like I said, the group really needs to be cross-functional and have representation from every area of the business that will be impacted by its decisions. So when you start enforcing policies across your company, you want to make sure that you not only have buy-in from all of these stakeholders, but you're sure that their business needs are going to be met. So are your developers okay with restrictions that you might set on provisioning EC2 or other compute resources? And are your finance teams able to attribute spending to different teams or workloads and do chargebacks or showbacks? And do your governance policies adhere to compliance regulations and external standards? And is your data secure? And do your executives have visibility into how your cloud spending is impacting business KPIs? Like, how is cloud spending driving up our cost of goods? So you can think of this team as advisors who are providing best practices, architectural standards, and guidance across teams and departments. Their goal is really to drive a cultural change in your organization so that everyone is thinking more holistically about the impact that they're going to have on the business's bottom line. And driving this cultural change is a really hard thing. This is probably the hardest thing that the CCOE team will do. So it's really important for this team to take time to establish trust and to take input from this broad group of stakeholders who will provide a balanced perspective. Okay, so you might already have something like a CCOE team. You probably don't call them that. Maybe you don't have anything like this, and that's all right too. If you don't, here are some key considerations that you want to think about when you start building out this team. Who in your company currently owns the cloud strategy? Does anyone own cloud strategy? Are executives bought in, and are they driving mandates, or are they not really part of the cloud conversation at all right now? You want to ask, how are my cloud resources currently being managed? Is it centralized through one group? Do we have any kind of standards or practices or policies for provisioning and configuring environments? Or is it just kind of the Wild West right now? And what other stakeholders are currently involved or are not currently involved that we need to pull in? Don't be afraid to break down silos in your organization and bring people together who don't typically work together. This is really the whole goal for the CCOE, is to drive this collaboration and establish these connections across teams that aren't used to thinking about each other's problems. CloudHealth has just published a new white paper, you can see on the screen here, and it's got detailed steps about how to establish this team, what you need to do to write your charter and define roles and responsibilities across the team. So I highly recommend that you check out this new white paper on our website. We kind of detail, we break it down into 3 steps for establishing your cloud center of excellence. Plan, build, and run. In the planning stage, you're going to assess your current environment. You're going to be asking yourself the questions that I just went through, and you're defining roles and responsibilities for the CCOE. Then you're going to write your charter and start defining what governance policies might look like for our organization. And finally, in the run phase, you're measuring, you're looking at your data, and you're making changes to your optimizations. It's a continuous process. Cloud optimization is not something that you can do once and walk away from it. So it's more of a loop, really, than a straight path. So I definitely encourage you to check out that white paper on our website. It will help you understand the steps to go through to start establishing the CCOE team. I want to spend a little bit of time now talking to you about what the CCOE team should focus on in order to help your business do a better job of cloud management. So through CloudHealth's lifetime of working with tens of thousands of customers, we've helped them develop this team over and over again. And we've been able to build out a framework that illustrates what these teams go through as they are managing their cloud environments and as they're trying to improve cloud operations, security, and cost management. So the team is going to work, the team is going to help you move up this maturity curve in these 3 areas. So the first area, financial management, this is just the process of optimizing your cloud spend and making sure that the investments you're making in the cloud align with your strategic business initiatives. So when you've reached maturity in the financial management realm of cloud management, this means that the business understands how all components of your modern cloud environment contribute to the total cost of ownership for your products. How does my own cloud costs contribute to the cost of my goods and what I'm charging people for what I'm selling? So you need to make sure that the cloud strategy is aligned to these business goals and enable your business to make decisions on accurate ROI analyses. The culture in a mature cloud organization is one where everybody is thinking about financial accountability and ownership, no matter what department you work in. So even if you're a developer, you're thinking about, how are my independent actions impacting the business's bottom line? In addition to financial management, the second key area that the CCOE team needs to focus on is cloud operations. So making sure that the cloud services being used meet all the business's needs around availability, performance, recoverability, and scalability. And this team is going to identify areas where you can optimize your cloud infrastructure that will drive operational consistency across the business and optimize your operations in such a way that you're saving money. The third area that the CCOE team focuses on is, of course, security and compliance, which is a critical component to cloud management. So your team, your CCOE team, is going to need to proactively detect and remediate any vulnerabilities in your cloud environment. This means they have to stay up to date with changing threats, changing security regulations, and ensure that you're continuously in compliance, not only with, external security governance best practices, but internal policies that you develop. So the CCOE team is helping you move up the maturity curve in these three areas. And this maturity, what we've seen over all this time working with our customers, is that it typically happens in 4 phases. So in this first phase, the CCOE team is helping you get visibility into your cloud environment. You're just trying to understand, what resources do I have? How much are they costing me? What's being used? What's being wasted in my environment? You're just trying to see what's going on at this point. And then once you achieve that visibility, then you can start to optimize. So this is when you've moved into the second phase of maturity. And I'm gonna go through a few ways that CloudHealth helps you optimize your environment. This is probably the meat of our solution, is helping you optimize through recommendations, reservation management, spinning down instances that are running but not adding value. So there's a lot that you can do in this optimization phase, and it's really an ongoing process. It's not, as I said before, it's not a one and done. You have to repeat this process over and over again. So once you get a good flow going with optimization, you're going to find that sometimes these optimization processes are repeatable. Like every time I have, an EBS storage volume that's unattached for X amount of time, I know that I want to shut it down because it's not doing anything useful in my environment. So I can automate this governance of my environment. I can set policies that will automatically shut down instances once it's been unattached for whatever length of time I set. You can use any amount of data in the CloudHealth platform to set these policies to govern your environment. So this is kind of the third phase of maturity. You're optimizing, but you're doing it in an automated way so that it's happening instantly and continuously. And then finally, when we say that you're one of the most mature cloud organizations, when you've reached a point where you've truly integrated and aligned business initiatives with cloud initiatives, for example, your financial platforms are integrated with your cloud platforms, and your financial teams can charge back costs to the applications or teams that incurred them. And you're able to understand your total cost of goods, and you're able to drive business decisions like pricing and packaging costs by evaluating your cloud environment. So you've integrated these two previously independent processes. So on this slide, I'm showing you one of our charts, a cost history report in CloudHealth that helps you get this initial phase of visibility into your environment. So our first recommendation is to develop a consistent tagging or labeling structure across all of your cloud resources. And of course, AWS offers you the ability to tag some of your resources, but not everything can be tagged in AWS. So CloudHealth really extends the capabilities from the native solution and enables you to make sure that your whole environment is accounted for. And critically, if you're using multiple cloud providers, you can tag and group your assets into common groups across these multiple hybrid and multi-cloud environments. We call this perspectives in CloudHealth. This is the feature that we use to create consistent tags across different environments. And it's a bit more robust than what you would find with your native solutions. So when you have these tags in place, then the business can start to really look at which teams and which applications are using which resources, or which configurations led to security vulnerabilities. The key here is to really be extremely consistent in your tagging structure, and you can leverage CloudHealth's automation and policy engine in order to drive governance in your tagging process. So making sure that, when you're labeling resources as part of your production environment, one team's not using capital PROD for production and the other team is using the word production. Simple things like that can make your cloud environment crazy really quickly. So having a way to automate and govern the tagging of all your assets can really be a game changer for getting proper visibility across your entire organization. Some of the common tags that we see are like line of business, department, cost center, project, environment. We even see people drill down right down to the owner. So being able to say who spun up, this EC2 instance, and being able to drive accountability that way. So then you can really start to analyze your environment. And this is just an example of a cost history report out of our own CloudHealth environment. And our sprint teams have named themselves Paul Revere, Sabotage, Intergalactic, and Sure Shot, because they like to come up with fun names for themselves. And here we're seeing how these AWS resources are being split across those teams. So the Paul Revere project in the dark blue, they're consistently spending the most amount of money in the cloud. And we can also see this big teal bar in November that's called assets not allocated. This is great, because then you can go in and say, okay, we've got a whole bunch of resources in our environment that aren't being represented across costs. So we need to fix that right away. And it looks like by the next month, they were actually properly tagging those, because by the time we get to the next month, everything has been allocated. So that's how you can get visibility. Now, optimization, this is a very complex process. It's something you're never going to be completely done with. Even after you mature into the governance, automation, and business integration phases, you're always going to be looking for ways to optimize your environment. We recommend that you make sure first that you're using the latest generation of all of your cloud resources. That's just some really low-hanging fruit that you can take care of quickly. New resources have more capacity, they're more cost efficient. The next thing you want to do is terminate unused or non-compliant resources. If you're running AWS and you detach an EBS storage volume from an EC2 compute instance, it stays active and you're being charged for that storage volume. So you need to make sure you shut those things down, and we can highlight those in the CloudHealth platform. You'll see here our health check report that's identified over $1,000 that can be saved this month just by closing down EBS storage volumes that aren't being used. So we give all kinds of recommendations in the platform so that you can quickly and in an ongoing way update your environment. We give you right sizing recommendations so that you can choose the smaller, cheaper resource that'll still cover all of your workload needs. Right sizing might mean the opposite for you. Maybe your application is not running as well as it should be, and CloudHealth would recommend that you actually need a bigger application or a bigger resource instance. And tools like CloudHealth can really make this process a lot easier. It can be done manually by looking at each of your instances and analyzing their usage and available capacity, but that's going to take you a lot of time to do. So cleaning up your current environment is just the first part of optimization, but you can also leverage a lot of cost savings. You can also get a lot of cost savings by leveraging commitments to your cloud provider. So like all the leading providers offer discounts if you agree to spend a certain amount of money or use a certain amount of resources. So if you've made any of those commitments, make sure you're squeezing as much juice out of those lemons as you can. That might mean exchanging your convertible reserved instances for a different type that's more appropriate for you now. And then finally, you can make new commitments to optimize future costs. So AWS is now offering some really attractive savings plans that take a lot of the headache out of managing these reservations. And we have built some awesome functionality that will help you choose the proper savings plan based on what your goal is. Am I trying to save the most amount of money? Am I trying to ensure coverage with reservations? Whatever your KPIs are, we can align those to your cloud strategy.
Hey, Amber,
Yes.
we've got about 1 or 2 minutes left. So I know our AWS speaker is a hard stop. So if you could summarize lots of great stuff, you summarize some of the key points, that would be great.
Excellent. Yeah. So here, we're just looking at, this is just our governance policies showing you how we can automate any action in CloudHealth driven by data. And then finally, in that business integration phase, really being able to understand, what cloud is costing you so that you can make strategic business decisions. I'll close by encouraging you to take our cloud maturity assessment at cloudhealthtech.com. It's just 5 minutes long, and it will give you an individualized readout of where your company stands on this cloud maturity curve. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. Check out that white paper for building a cloud strategy team, your cloud center of excellence, and check out our maturity assessment. Thanks so much.